I'd driven 14 hours to surprise them with the perfect lake house. Instead, Mom's note greeted me. Change of plans. Enjoying Bahamas sunshine. Call us when you get this. My fingers trembled as I dialed, ready to hear their excuse for spending my money. I stared at the handwritten note on the kitchen counter, my hands gripping the marble until my knuckles turned white. We decided to go to the Bahamas instead. Sorry, but Tahoe seemed boring after Michael found a great deal. Maybe next time. The lakeside house I'd spent my entire savings on echoed with emptiness. 6 bedrooms, hot tub, boat dock, all for a family that wasn't coming. My phone buzzed, Mom. I silenced it and opened the sliding door to the deck, where the afternoon sun sparkled across Lake Tahoe's surface. I pulled up my banking app and canceled the remaining payments to the family fund, then took a photo of the note. 3 months of planning, countless calls with rental agents, all for this. A note scribbled on resort stationery. Not even a real apology. I'd been depositing $2,000 each month into our shared family fund for the past 6 months, believing everyone was contributing their part. The plan was that we'd all pay equally for this annual tradition. I'd stopped checking their contributions after the first month, trusting that they'd keep their word like they promised at Christmas dinner. But somehow, I'd ended up covering the entire $12,000 rental while they spent who knows how much on their Bahamas trip. I looked around at the empty house that should have been filled with voices. I'd imagined my nephews racing through these halls, Mom and Jessica arguing about dinner plans in the kitchen, Dad grilling on the deck. Now there was only the sound of my footsteps echoing on hardwood floors and the distant lapping of waves against the shore. The buzzing continued. Dad this time. I answered, my voice perfectly steady as I transferred the remaining balance from the family fund back to my personal account. Alex, your mother's worried sick. Where are you? At the lake house, where we agreed to meet. I kept my tone casual, fighting the tremor that threatened to break through. But funny thing, I'm the only one here. Silence. Then, listen, son, there was a change of plans. Michael found this incredible deal to the Bahamas. Yeah, I read Mom's note. I leaned against the railing, watching a boat speed across the water. When were you planning to tell me? We tried calling yesterday. You didn't pick up. That was when I was driving, crossing 3 states to get here first, and set everything up. Stock the fridge. Arrange the welcome baskets. Put fresh flowers in everyone's rooms. Right. I moved back inside, walking to the liquor cabinet. So who's paying for the Bahamas trip? Another long pause. Well, we used some of the family fund. The fund I'd contributed to every month for 2 years. The fund that was supposed to be for emergencies and shared experiences. I see. I opened a bottle of whiskey I'd brought for Dad. Well, enjoy your vacation. Alex, don't be like this. Why don't you join us? We can. I hung up and turned off my phone. The house was oppressively quiet as I poured myself a drink. I'd been looking forward to the noise, my nephews racing through the halls, Mom and Jessica arguing about dinner plans, Dad grilling on the deck. Now it was just me, standing in a huge empty house I couldn't afford but had paid for anyway. I took my drink to the deck and watched the sun begin its descent behind the mountains. That's when I saw him, a guy about my age on the neighboring deck, raising his beer in casual greeting. Expecting company? He called over. Saw you hauling in enough groceries for an army. I laughed bitterly. Family vacation. Except they decided to vacation somewhere else. He winced. Ouch. That's rough. He studied me for a moment, then nodded toward his house. I've got steaks and a 6-pack. Better than drinking alone. I hesitated, then thought of the alternative, sitting in this empty monument to my family's indifference. Let me grab my whiskey, I called back. I'm Alex, by the way. Jack, he replied. I own both these places. Rent them out most of the year. My neighbor was the property owner. Perfect. As I walked over, my phone vibrated in my pocket. A text from my brother Michael. Don't be dramatic. Come to Bahamas. Jessica found cheap last-minute flight. I turned my phone off again. The scent of grilling meat filled the air as Jack handed me a beer. So, he said, flipping a steak, want to tell me about this family that ditched you? Not much to tell. I took a swig. I'm the reliable one. The one who shows up. And they didn't. Jack nodded, understanding in his eyes. Nope. I leaned against the railing. You know what the worst part is? I'm not even surprised. And I wasn't. This was just the latest in a long pattern, but somehow this time hit differently. Maybe because I'd put so much of myself into this trip, financially, emotionally, logistically. I'd sent countless emails with activity options, meal plans, even created a shared playlist. I'd become the family coordinator because no one else would step up. Well, Jack said, sliding a perfectly cooked steak onto a plate, their loss is potentially your gain. I know all the best spots around here, places tourists never find. As we ate, Jack told stories about growing up in Tahoe, inheriting the properties from his grandfather, leaving for college but always coming back. I found myself laughing, the knot in my chest loosening slightly. When I finally checked my phone again before bed, there were 16 missed calls and twice as many texts. I scrolled through them quickly. Mom, Alex, please call us. We're worried. Dad, son, don't be stubborn. Michael, dude, stop making mom upset. It's just a vacation. Jessica, Michael's wife, Alex, you're being childish. The boys were really looking forward to the Bahamas. I put the phone down without responding and slept better than I expected. The next morning, I woke to knocking at my door. It was Jack, holding 2 fishing rods. Best time to catch breakfast, he said with a grin. For the first time in months, I felt something like lightness. I grabbed my jacket and followed him to the dock. By midday, we had caught 3 trout, which Jack showed me how to clean and grill. As we ate lunch on the deck, my phone rang again. Michael. This time, I answered. Where the hell are you? His voice was tense. Mom's having a breakdown because you won't answer her calls. I took a sip of my beer. I'm exactly where I said I'd be. At the lake house I rented for us. Look, we changed plans. It happens. You need to get over it and stop punishing Mom. I'm not punishing anyone, I replied calmly. I'm enjoying the vacation I planned and paid for. So this is about money? Fine, we'll pay you back for your share of the house. I laughed. My share? I paid for the entire thing, Michael. $12,000. Silence. Then, that can't be right. Mom said we all contributed from the family fund. Check your statements. See how much you actually put in the fund this year. I kept my voice level. I've been covering the shortfall for months. What shortfall? Dad manages the fund. I closed my eyes. No, I do. Dad asked me to take over last year when he couldn't balance it anymore. That's not, Michael stopped. I could almost hear the gears turning. Wait, is that why you were asking about receipts at Christmas? Yep. So when Mom said there was enough in the fund for the Bahamas, she was spending my money. Again, I watched a boat speed across the lake. Anyway, enjoy your vacation. I'm enjoying mine. I hung up before he could respond. Jack raised an eyebrow. Family drama? My brother just realized they went to the Bahamas on my dime. I took another sip. Probably won't change anything, though. Jack studied me. You always let them take advantage of you like this? The question hit harder than I expected. Had I? I'd always seen myself as the responsible one, the fixer. But maybe I'd just been enabling them. I guess I have, I admitted. It seemed easier than confrontation. And how's that working out for you? I laughed despite myself. Point taken. What do you do for work anyway? Jack asked as he handed me another beer. Financial analyst for a healthcare company, I replied. Mostly budgeting, cost projections, that kind of thing. Jack raised his eyebrows. No kidding? I've been looking for someone with financial know-how for almost 6 months now. These properties are killing me with paperwork. I also do some financial planning on the side, I added. Help friends with investments taxes. It's actually more fulfilling than my day job. We should talk about that later, Jack said thoughtfully. I'm terrible with the business end of things. My phone buzzed with a text from Michael. What do you mean Mom's been spending your money? Dad handles the fund. I didn't respond. Instead, I opened my laptop and pulled up the shared spreadsheet I'd created for the family fund, the one no one but me ever looked at. I took screenshots of the contributions, mine regular and substantial, Dad's occasional, Mom's and Michael's non-existent. I sent these to Michael without comment. Jack and I spent the afternoon hiking to a hidden waterfall he knew about. For a few hours, I forgot about my family completely. When we returned, there were more missed calls, not just from my immediate family now, but from my aunt and 2 cousins as well. The family phone tree had been activated. My finger hovered over Mom's contact, but instead, I texted Michael, I'm fine. Taking some space. Enjoy the Bahamas. He replied immediately, we need to talk about the fund. Did you really pay for everything? I put the phone away. Jack invited me to dinner at a local restaurant where his friend was the chef. We sat at the bar, eating extraordinary food and talking about everything except my family situation. It wasn't until the next morning that the bomb dropped. I was having coffee on the deck when my laptop pinged with a new email. It was from the family group chat I'd been ignoring, except I wasn't supposed to have access to this one. Someone, probably Dad, who was terrible with technology, had accidentally included me in a chain that had been going for weeks. I scrolled up to the beginning. Michael, Mom, does Alex know about the Bahamas plan? Mom, no, and don't tell him yet. He's so set on this Tahoe trip. We'll break it to him later. Jessica, won't he be upset? He's been talking about this for months. Mom, he'll get over it. He always does. Dad, I don't know. Linda, he's put a lot into this. Maybe we should stick with the original plan. Mom, don't be silly. Alex will understand once we explain. Besides, he can afford it more than we can. The conversation continued, spanning weeks. They'd been planning this for a month, booking flights, making arrangements, all while letting me continue to plan and pay for Tahoe. Every email from me about activities or meals had been met with enthusiasm, even as they were coordinating an entirely different trip behind my back. Mom, Tahoe is the same thing every year. The Bahamas is our chance to try something different. Michael, plus Alex always wants to do those boring hikes and fishing trips. Mom, we deserve a real vacation for once, not just sitting by a lake. Jessica, but Alex has already put down deposits. Mom, he can afford it. He doesn't have kids to pay for like you do. Dad, I'm not comfortable with this. Maybe we should tell him. Mom, he'll just try to guilt us into Tahoe. Better to ask forgiveness than permission. Michael, Alex is too busy with work to check the fund anyway. He won't notice until we're back. Mom, exactly. He never questions anything. The final emails were from yesterday. Michael, Alex knows. He's at the house and he's pissed. Mom, he'll calm down. He always does. Jessica, he said he paid for everything? Is that true? Dad, I'm not sure. I haven't really looked at the fund statements in a while. My back problems made it hard to keep up with the paperwork, which is why I asked Alex to take over last year. Michael, well, he just sent me screenshots. Looks like he's been funding this whole thing himself. Mom, that can't be right. We all contribute. Michael, when was the last time you contributed, Mom? The chain ended there. I sat back, my hands gripping the laptop so tightly I heard the plastic creak. All these years, I thought I was helping, being the responsible one. In reality, I'd been the family piggy bank. I remembered last year when I canceled my trip to Europe, something I'd been saving for since college, because Mom said they had an emergency with their air conditioning. I sent them $3,000, only to find out later they never actually fixed it. They just wanted a new TV. I forwarded the entire chain to myself, then replied to all, wrong email list. I wasn't supposed to see this, was I? Then I shut my laptop and called Jack. Want to help me with something? I asked when he answered. Depends. Is it illegal? I could hear the smile in his voice. No, but it might be petty. My favorite kind of revenge. I'm in. Part of me still wanted their approval, still wondered if I was overreacting. But as I thought about all the times they'd taken me for granted, about the casual way they dismissed my efforts for this trip, I felt something harden inside me. I clenched my fists and nodded to myself. It was time to choose me. An hour later, Jack and I were hanging a banner between two trees on the front lawn. Last-minute rental available. Family chose Bahamas over Tahoe. Their loss, your gain. I'd explained what I wanted to do, and Jack, surprisingly, had agreed. He needed a property manager for his rentals, and I needed a change. After our conversations about my financial background and his business struggles, it seemed like perfect timing. I'd been doing financial planning as a side gig for years, helping friends with budgets, taxes, investment advice. Now I was going to make it official, starting with managing Jack's rental properties. You're sure about this? Jack asked as we stepped back to admire our work. It's a big change. I'm sure, I said, surprised at how confident I felt. It's time. My phone rang again, Mom, this time. I took a deep breath and answered. Alex, what is this email? Were you spying on us? Her voice was shrill with indignation. No, Mom. Dad added me to the wrong chain. I kept my voice calm, but I'm glad I saw it. It clarified some things. You're overreacting. We were going to tell you. When? After I arrived at an empty house? Oh, wait. That's exactly what happened. Alex. I've made a decision, Mom. I'm staying in Tahoe. For how long? Indefinitely. I quit my job this morning. Silence, then. That's ridiculous. You can't just. I already did. I'm going to be managing vacation properties and starting my own financial planning business. With what money? I laughed. With the money I've been saving instead of dumping it all into the family fund. Plus, I'll be living rent-free in exchange for property management. This is about the Bahamas, isn't it? You're punishing us because. This isn't about the Bahamas, Mom. It's about years of being taken for granted, of being used as the family ATM and emotional support without any reciprocity. That's not fair. Actually, it is. Very fair. And long overdue. I glanced at Jack, who gave me a thumbs up. I need to go. I have a new job to start. Alex, wait. Her voice changed tactics, softening. The boys miss their uncle. You don't want them to think you abandoned them, do you? I paused, the familiar guilt creeping in. Then I thought of the emails, of all the times they'd used my love for family against me. Goodbye, Mom. Enjoy the Bahamas. I hung up, feeling lighter than I had in years. My phone immediately began buzzing with texts, which I ignored. Instead, I opened my laptop and started drafting a business plan. Jack brought over beer and pizza, and we worked late into the night. The next morning, there was a car in the driveway, Dad's rental. He must have flown in from the Bahamas. I watched from the window as he stood before the banner, shoulders slumped. I went outside to meet him. Alex, he said, looking older than I remembered. What's going on? I gestured to the house. I'm making a change. This banner, it's a bit much, don't you think? Actually, it's marketing. I'm taking over management of these properties. I crossed my arms. Why are you here, Dad? Shouldn't you be in the Bahamas? He sighed, rubbing the back of his neck. Michael showed us the spreadsheets. I had no idea you were funding everything. You would have if you looked at the statements I sent every month. I know. I should have paid more attention. He ran a hand through his thinning hair, unable to meet my eyes. Your mother and I, we got comfortable with you handling things. After my back problems last year. He trailed off, looking ashamed. Too comfortable. Yes. He finally looked at me directly. I'm sorry, son. We took advantage of your generosity. I nodded, not trusting myself to speak. What can I do to make this right? He asked. I considered for a moment. Close the family fund. If people want to do things together, they can pay their own way. Done, he said without hesitation. Anything else? Yes. Respect my decision to stay here and start over. He looked pained. But your job, your apartment. I've been miserable at that job for years, Dad. And the apartment was just a place to sleep between working and solving family crises. Are you really going to be a property manager? And a financial advisor? I already have my first client lined up. I nodded toward Jack's house. Dad followed my gaze. You just met this guy. Sometimes you know when something's right. I shrugged. Besides, it wouldn't be the first time I took a risk for family. At least this time it's for the family I'm choosing. He flinched at that, but nodded. I understand. He hesitated. Can I hug you before I go? I stepped forward and allowed the embrace, feeling the familiar scent of his aftershave. For a moment, I was a child again, safe in my father's arms. Then I stepped back, a man making his own choices. Tell everyone I'm okay, I said, and that I'll call when I'm ready. I will. He walked back to his car, then turned. You know your mother will be furious about that banner. I smiled. I'm counting on it. After he left, Jack joined me on the lawn. Family reconciliation? Not quite. But it's a start. I looked at the banner flapping in the breeze. So, boss, what's first on the agenda? First, he said with a grin, we take that ridiculous banner down before we get complaints. Then we talk about how we're going to turn your talent for managing money into a real business plan. I laughed and reached for the corner of the banner. As I untied it, my phone buzzed with a text from Michael. Dad says you're staying there. Is that true? I typed back. Yes. Making some changes. Taking care of myself for once. His reply came quickly, about time. For what it's worth, I'm sorry. We all are. I put the phone away without responding. There would be time for more conversations later. For now, I had a new life to build, one that didn't revolve around being the family fixer. That evening, as Jack and I sat on the deck watching the sunset over Lake Tahoe, I felt a peace I hadn't experienced in years. The water glittered gold and crimson, and the mountains stood solid against the darkening sky. You think they'll try to get you back? Jack asked, passing me a beer. Probably. Old patterns die hard. I took a long drink. But so do I. I stood up and walked to the edge of the dock. Picking up a smooth stone, I turned it over in my palm, feeling its weight. When I was a kid, Dad taught me how to skip stones across the water. It's all in the wrist, he'd say. For years after, skipping stones became our ritual during family trips to Tahoe. I flicked my wrist and watched the stone bounce 5 times across the glassy surface before disappearing beneath the waves. This time, I wasn't skipping stones for Dad or for family tradition. I was doing it for myself. The sun slipped behind the mountains, and I raised my bottle in a silent toast to new beginnings and the family you choose. For the first time in years, I didn't feel the need to check my phone, wondering when they'd call, what crisis would need my attention next. I left one stone upthrown on the dock, a reminder of what I learned and what I was leaving behind. Would you walk away from everything like I did, choosing freedom and self-respect over a family that took you for granted? Or would you have stayed to repair relationships with people who repeatedly showed they valued your wallet more than your presence?